the collectors of those things.
Welcome to the Silicon Slope Show. Another day here in Utah and on this great planet. Hey, real quick, I saw something right before we came on. Jerry Seinfeld was protesting.
Yeah.
He was giving getting an honorary degree at Duke, and there were students who walked out in protest. I guess it's because he has been vocal in his support for Israel.
Yeah. It's
Jerry Seinfeld. Let's just be clear.
These kids were probably not born in a time where they could watch Seinfeld. It might not be as big a deal to him, but he's a pretty happy, jovial dude that has carte blanche because he is a comedian. He can say and do whatever he wants.
Could very well be the least controversial comedian of all time.
Yeah.
I can't think of any. He doesn't even swear in his act.
No. And he got protested. I doubt he cares even one iota. But,
no, of course he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Why would he care?
No, he doesn't.
The guy's worth like $1 billion. We have the great James Clarke here. James, how are you?
Doing great.
It's so good to see you.
Glad to see you, my friend.
What
Thanks,
are you
Clint.
up to these days?
Oh, not much. A few things going on in our lives. So glad to be here. Sincerely. Good to be with good friends.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Clint.
Tell us what's going on at Clearlink and the rest of the. I mean, you're a mogul. You've got all sorts of
I'm not a
companies.
mogul, but boy, we are trying to make things happen. It's been great. Naturally, we've come back to it. Well, you and I have talked about this, but we've come back to a business that I started 20 plus years ago. Clarke and Earl, my wife's maiden name Earl, we put those together. That was Clearlink that we started right in sort of the heart of the dot-com bubble bursting. This was sort of 2001. It was just weeks after 9/11 had taken place. Sold about 10 years later and kept track of the business, watched what was taking place. This was a business that was poised to do billions of dollars in revenue every year. It hadn't quite come close.
Yeah.
So we had been approached by several different, partners and other organizations. SoftBank was one that approached us and said, "Do you want to come partner with us and buy this back?" So we watched it sort of 5 years later. Price got away from us. We weren't able to do it. Then they were acquired by a large, conglomerate out of Europe, and they happened to be 2 blocks away from our office in Miami. Started a conversation. Things went well. We were able to come back and rejoin and buy a small minority stake in hopes to buy in the rest of the business. So that's what we've been doing the last sort of 2.5 years, and it's been a great ride. It's been a choppy, challenging, difficult ride, but so wonderful to see what the people at Clearlink have been able to do and accomplish. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating ride to see you back as CEO and leading a company. It's actually really great.
Well,
I love seeing it.
Well, not what I planned to do. So that we sort of look at ourselves a little bit more in that grandparent role rather than the parental role as operators. But we have always been operators first and investors second. So for us, this is not newfound territory. This is where we feel very comfortable. But I did not know that was the gig. It was sort of a closing table where they said, "Hey, CEO is going, COO is going. There's nobody left in the C-suite. Will you take this on?" I said, "Do I have a choice?" And we came back. But it's been wonderful, not without its challenges. You saw our cancellation last year and all kinds of things. We can talk about that. But the reality is we are so proud of the Clearlinkers that are there and what they're doing, what they're able to accomplish. We've been able to double the size of our business in terms of profitability and other things, and it's all because of the people there at Clearlink.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were canceled. What was that like? That was weird.
I don't think anybody grows up thinking this is what I hope to do or what I hope to experience, especially in Utah. We're known as sort of this friendly, accommodating and loving state. Listen, I heard from friends in Buenos Aires and London and Sydney that on the front page of their business section talking about this tech CEO, which is not what you want, certainly. And it was, listen, I haven't talked about this very openly. It was very challenging for our family more than anything. I just felt sorry for our children who are wearing bulletproof backpacks and full-time security at our home for a couple months. But, it's a different world. And I think I was ill prepared for what the world really looked and felt like. But coming out of COVID, we are an angry society right now. We are not happy. People are defending their newfound freedoms of working from home and other things to the death. And I think that was part of that. The reality is I wouldn't have felt quite so badly, and I don't feel sorry for myself, but I wouldn't have felt so badly for our Clearlinkers who bore sort of the brunt weight of what that was if it were true. I mean, the reality is never had we seen so much enthusiasm from that town hall to sort of the week or so until it was reported globally, we had people that had moved away, said, I am coming back. I'm excited about this. We love this new headquarters that has massage booths. It's got a golf simulator. You've got 4 restaurants. As beautiful, you've been in the space, as beautiful a space. But it felt like we were bringing them back to these wretched conditions. I mean, there were pictures of me where they had, doctored it to where I was snarling. I was unhinged, all these other things. But the reality is, it made it out to what it wasn't. It made it out to appear as though I was asking employees, especially single mothers, working mothers and working fathers, to make a choice, which I wasn't. The reality is I was raised by a working mother. Who was raised also by a working mother who was the primary breadwinner for her family at a time when it wasn't popular. This is in the 50s and then the 80s, where dinner table conversation for us was talking to my mother about, being paid less than the male peer who had the exact same job. Yeah. So it's been a very highly sensitive issue for me as an individual, for us as a family, and certainly in the companies where we operate, where we've been very supportive of our female and working parents within the organization. But that's the world in which we live right now.
Well, it's an interesting. It's crazy to be in the middle of a media firestorm like that, and I was, but it was more locally. Yours went global, which is absurd. But with the whole like COVID and Test Utah and all of these different things that were happening with us, like we were on the front page of the Salt Lake Tribune for like a year, almost every day,
which was wild,
which is way crazy. And then I'd go around. This is why I text you when I was going through.
I'm so grateful for your kindness
when you were going through your thing, and just to remind you that hey, you're fine. No,
you're wonderful.
And it was fascinating. For me, when we were going through something, I don't know what you would call what we were going through, but we were being like attacked by Salt Lake Tribune. Let's just say that, for lack of a better word. And it was like consuming my life. In like my mind, I'm like, what is going on? Do I apologize? Do I not?
That's right.
Apologize for what? What am I going to do?
Exactly.
Like, what's going on? And then I'd go around to like my friends, or like I'd go play softball like on a Wednesday night. And I was like, guys, can you believe I'm going? They're like, going through what?
Yeah.
They don't give a damn.
They're like, we're doing what?
Yeah.
Just don't forget about it. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. Isn't it wild?
It's so weird.
And everything is about context, right? It's always about the context of what happened. And the reality is I took stock of what I had done, and there are things that I could have done better. There is no question. I could have articulated better, but I did not realize that this was for a global audience. I thought this was for our company and talking about, how to save this company and save us from having to, say goodbye to some of our, dear employees and partners within the business. But it's an interesting world right now. And I don't know that you can do anything. The reality is most of us have seen, a movie or read a book of the witch trials and things like that. Yeah. So that would never happen in 21st century America, let alone the rest of the world. We're far more empathetic. And the reality is, I don't know that that's accurate. Yeah. Those that sort of came to the defense when you're saying, talking to friends, were jumped on just as deeply and harshly as I was. So I don't know how you win in this, but I think, our governor does a great job of talking about, let's find a disagree. Let's just disagree better. Maybe a little gentler, maybe a little kinder without threatening one's life and other things like that. But again, not about me, about sort of the place we are in the world.
It's crazy to experience that, like where it feels like the whole world is like trying to like bring you down. And until you like get outside of yourself and get outside of like people who aren't engaged in that every day, it's really hard to like process that mentally. Like for example, and I've talked about this on this show too. We invited Elder Bednar to come speak to Silicon Slope Summit, and for like a week I was getting death threats.
Is that right?
Like literal death threats. Like people leaving voicemails saying like, "This isn't what Utah's about." I was like, I think this is maybe the biggest thing that Utah's about. Like, I don't know what state you live in, but this is certainly what Utah's about. Anyways, like, and like they were gonna like whatever, right? And then, but that I'd had enough experience at that point where I was like, they are going to forget about this and be mad about something else in like 72 hours.
Well, that's it. And the reality, and Garrett and I were talking about this earlier, is follow the money. Follow the clicks. Follow what this is about. And in a lot of ways, that's the conversation we're having. If in my case, it was about a woman giving away a pet, and it was about us not supporting working parents. And again, I've explained sort of our feeling on and what we've actually done about working parents, and then about women and pets. I built pet businesses for the last 15 years. That's what we've listen, Dodger's my new best friend out here, your dog here in your office. This is what we're about, from a financial standpoint, let alone what we do personally. But, it's interesting to sort of see what our world looks and feels like. There's a lot of pent up aggression. And I just think we're better together and in person. And I think there are a lot of people whose mental health, and you and I have talked a little bit about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's really struggling. And what we've always sort of done is traded off certain things that have benefited us, going to work and being around other people or being in person and in this sort of tactile relationship. And we're just missing out on the best ships of life, friendship and mentorship and leadership and all the things that come through this tactile experience that is a career or is truly what friendship is, sans social media, sans this sort of technology. And we got to be careful. I mean, we're about technology and we love this, but the reality is we're just better working in person. We can do it in another way, but that was my thesis to our company. Yeah. And it really did help us turn around. It made an enormous difference to us. But I know I'm the cautionary tale for everybody else in this process.
Well, you kind of did it before Elon did it.
Well,
if you would have just waited until Elon did it, everyone would have been. But like even the level of detail you just said about a pet or something, like I don't even know that. Like the only thing that I knew you were getting in trouble for is like you were telling people, hey, you have to work.
Yeah, it was not about making a choice.
It's so weird.
But that's the reality with anything that is being said these days. You chop it up, carve it up, and serve it up, and you can make it what you need it to be. A tirade out of sort of, again, what was a really productive meeting for us. But I think it's really scared leaders and CEOs from actually making the hard decisions today and doing what is best for their business. And people don't quite know. And then a lot of our people had forgotten. They come into the office, they're there for a week or two, and they are upset. 2 weeks later, they're thanking me for, wow, I didn't realize my mental health was here, on the floor, whereas I love being around these people, and you really do benefit in a big way. So again, this was not, I made my mistakes. I own those mistakes, but it was not about, it wasn't about asking people to make a choice. In fact, the funny thing about, working parents and working mothers, the first week I was back, I promoted 3 women to vice president because we didn't have a single female leader in the organization. That's been an enormous theme for us as a cause, as a family, as a foundation. My wife would, not be very happy if that weren't the case. She is a force to be reckoned with there, but we truly did not ask people to make a choice. Just simply be fair. It was as if we were asking, a police officer putting your child in the car with you, a construction worker taking your child to work. Just be fair to your children, be fair to your coworkers and the company where you are, and those trade-offs will make a difference.
You didn't do anything wrong.
Well, no, I'm not going to say that. But that was the moment for sure, and we can do better.
And
we're better together.
Usually you get stronger because of that. Sounds like the company's stronger, you're personally stronger. Like it just seems like you go through those fires and you come out a lot stronger and you learn a lot of things. But honestly, like I wouldn't worry about it at all.
We worry about it because we care, and we'll continue to care. But it's changed things for us, and a lot of things are a lot better because of what our people are doing. But we love them. We're grateful for them. So thanks for having me. To talk about that. Sorry that we've taken so much time on this.
Are you kidding? Who cares?
I'll hit on it just a little bit more because when we were sitting down, you're like, no holds barred. Let's just go for it. And I didn't really engage with the cancellation of James Clarke, other than somebody's like, he's stepped in it. I'm like, for doing a town hall on Zoom, I can see that, right? Kidding. No. But the news cycle is a great example. And there's so many examples, like Coca-Cola got canceled by the Arabs in 1948 in favor for Pepsi, but then when they circled back, Pepsi was viewed as like, oh, they're not cool anymore, we should get Coke, right? There's always the silver lining.
Is that right?
And all I've heard over the last year is positive stuff from Clearlinkers and others. So it might suck when you're in the vortex and all of that, but I think you've come out on top.
Well, we've learned a lot. I've learned a lot personally. It's been a great growth experience for me, but I'm just proud of our people because it's really about them.
How is it going with Clearlink? There's a whole book, and we're signing the documents and you're the CEO, and it's all of the finances that go into it and the decisions. That's the fun part. We don't have enough time. But ultimately, as you guys were viewing it and looking at it and ultimately consummating the deal, you had goals and objectives, right? Now you're 2 years into it. What have you hit on? What have you missed on? What were some surprises, and what did you get right?
Good. A lot of questions, a lot to unpack there. For us, as we looked at Clearlink as an opportunity, it was really, again, not too often do you get these second chances in life. And this was one, to be able to come back to a business that you'd built and watched and hoped would grow beyond your wildest dreams. And there was still so much opportunity. It was good for us to come back. We had, you look at every business and think, build by license. Can I go build this? Can I go acquire into it? Or can I go license a technology or something akin to that? For us, we felt like there was enough great relationships in that business that it was worthwhile for us to come back if we could. And so the opportunity presented itself. We were able to buy a minority stake, come in as leadership in the business. And what we've been able to do is essentially double the size of our profits in the business. Again, with all thanks going to our people there at Clearlink. But this is a change. This was a business that in some ways had really, well, for sure, they had wonderful leadership and great and hard workers there, but was sort of left alone from sort of a parent company or a private equity. And for us to come in, being the operators and investors in the business who are now buying all of the rest of that business, so buying it outright, and we're in that process right now, has been a great gift to us to be able to sort of shape it and move it towards this direction. But we have yet to execute on sort of that next phase of the business until we've purchased control of the business. We have great partners in a company called Foundever, a French business based in Miami. Again, I said we were right around the corner from our Miami office. Love the relationship with them, but to have the autonomy to do the things that we need to do and really invest in the opportunities, that's why we came back. And so we're really excited about what that looks like. And we hope we're back talking about some of the successes of that new version of what Clearlink is, but we're excited about that, but we haven't been able to execute on that. We thought naively, come in 60 to 90 days of stabilization. We're 2 years plus. We've stabilized. We've increased, profits and other things like that the business needed to do to stay alive. Because the way that they had grown in the past is you grow the business and the business starts doing this. So you acquire and you get to grow again, but you're not growing the core of the business without acquisition. It's not a great strategy. And we, frankly, did not have access to allocate to acquisition. But that's no way to build a sustainable business. And so we've had to pivot that in a big way and just lead through management and grow through management.
I didn't even know you had an office in Miami. Is that for
Small
Clearlink or is
Clarke
that for
Capital
your...
office.
That's for Clarke Capital.
Yeah, so
okay.
my
Very cool.
business partner's a Londoner. He got to Miami. That's as far into America as he's going to make it. You walk out his back door and he's right on the sand. We are not going to be able to recruit him to Utah, but that's my business partner, James Harrison. It's been wonderful. We've been together as business partners for about 10 years. We were business school together, have a lot in common, but that's what he runs there. But it's one of those great relationships. So.
And you're still doing Clarke Capital, right?
We are. We sort of hit the pause button a little bit. These last years as we've been a little busy with Clearlink. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot of follow-on work with other businesses like Brandless and others. We did allocate to one business with David Beers. That's called BioLexis. Very interesting life science business that, my first deal 20 years ago was allocating to David Beers in a company called Montagen that he sold to Supergen, publicly traded company. That's how I thought all venture worked. You allocate, you get several returns back in 2 years, and that was the easiest thing I'd ever done behind a great operator. I did not allocate to his next billion-dollar idea, but I would never bet against him, and we're always going to bet with him. So we allocated a significant amount to what he's doing in BioLexis. But it's part of the hotbed of what takes place here in Utah. But he was one of the great, if you could call him a godfather of the space here in Utah. He's been very, for the last 2 decades, his fingerprints have been on about every meaningful deal, or to some degree or another, whether it's at Huntsman or other places where he's worked or led. He's really one of the great experts in life science.
He's a legend.
Utah. Yeah, great.
Kind of a weird question here. I find it interesting as like CEOs, whether they're the founders or they lead the companies. I've never heard them talk about it, but the age factor, like you look like you're 32. I have no idea how old you are.
I'm in my 50s. Fair enough. Thank you. You're very kind. My wife will thank you for that.
At a certain point, you might factor in age as it pertains to goals, right? Like, this is a hard task. It looks to be about a 10-year goal, right? Versus like we can turn things around in a year. Yeah. I'd like to do this while I am in my early 60s. Does this ever factor in?
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great question, Garrett, and I really appreciate that. You think about how much fuel you have in the tank to do this, the fire in your belly, if you will. And, Yeah, I've still got it. I think that's that farm boy mentality that I have growing up in Southeast Idaho. But the reality is it's tiring. It is tiresome work to work the hours that we do and do the things that we do. In fact, in that town hall that we were talking about, challenging our people to work those kinds of hours and things. But you can't do that forever. That is a treadmill that, or a hamster wheel, if you think about it from our perspective, that you cannot stay on forever. But I admire so many that have done this for decades. Feels like we've been sort of doing this in one iteration or another as operator and or investor, but it's a fast-paced machine that's going. I think what has suffered has been our work sort of in the community and what we've done from a nonprofit side, at least for me personally. But my wife has stepped up in an enormous way, and it's beautiful to have a great partner like Andrea Clarke.
Yeah, for sure. Along those lines, you guys are heavily involved in so many things that it's hard to keep track of, all the, the charities and the fundraisers and, the support of the community. With that, there's a double-edged sword, right? You get to interact and be a part of cool projects and cool things, but it opens up a lot of asks and petitions from others, right?
It does.
Saying no for a lot of people is just one of the worst things in life. Have you developed a method for it, or does it just suck?
Well, we're terrible at saying no. That's why. I mean, it's in part why we're involved in a lot of things. But listen, if we had more, we would give more, is the reality. And we'd love that. We feel like it's the great honor to be able to sit in a room and talk about the opportunities that take place here in the state, because it really is special. You do not see this to this degree or this extent in other places. And the people of Utah are so generous. Andrea and I chaired Utah Philanthropy Day and learned in the process that it's, of course, as you already know, the state known for the greatest philanthropy and greatest giving per capita. And truly, that's what we've seen. And so we're honored. This is not a Clarke-led process in any way. We're the least of those that have been generous, but it is so wonderful to at least be a small part of this community of those that are giving back. I mean, amazing what Silicon Slopes has done and how you've engendered giving back to other people through your causes. And it's just been beautiful. You do that as part of, the nonprofit you are, but encouraging others to do that. And frankly, that's the only reason why we put our names on any of this. When Matt Holland was the president of UVU, approached us about a donation. I was serving on his board. I was the chair of their foundation, and we really struggled. This was the first time we were ever going to put our name on anything. We struggled with that, and we came to the firm decision that we would absolutely not do that. It just was not in our DNA. We didn't want to be known for those kinds of things. It just didn't feel right. But true to who he is, Matt Holland reasoned with me and listen, if you will do this and step up and put your name front and center at this university where we're not known for this, we don't have names on the buildings, we don't have a large source of donors. If you'll do that, others will follow. And true to his his words in that moment, others have. Brent, you watch Scott Keller, Brandon Fugel, and others that have really stepped up, and so many others, the Norda family, and so many others that continue to do that at Utah Valley University, really has helped elevate what that's about. And so that was a personal decision for us, but it was not without a lot of persuasion from others. But if it were up to us, I think if we had our druthers, we would not allocate or put our name on anything. It's really about the causes themselves. But hopefully that's inspired others. And so that's wisdom from a university president.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And by the way, UVU is just such a great
place.
place.
Isn't it fun to see that?
It's so incredible how it's grown.
Love it.
Tell us about Brandless. How's Brandless doing?
Brandless is not without its challenges. It's been great. They grew from, sort of when we hit the reset button, acquired it from SoftBank. We, saw the deal, closed the deal about 5 days later. It has been a challenge ever since. So we've been in the deal for about 3-ish years now. And 3.5, I guess, almost 4. It's been interesting to watch them grow. They went from 0 to $100 million plus.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's nothing to, sneeze at. But there are real challenges in that market, consumer, and clearly it affects consumer as well, where a lot of our competitors have sort of nosedived in this market. We've been able to grow. That's a little bit we've seen some challenges in Brandless, but they've raised real money. They've gotten through some of those knot holes. We'll continue to do that, but I think there's a great story to be told in Brandless still. I'm really excited about what that becomes. But there are a lot of pivot again in that business. So,
what's your take on like the current economic environment? What are you seeing?
It feels like, naturally, we all know of the uncertainty, right? So a lot of people are just pausing. They'll get through this election cycle, which may be the wildest election cycle we may ever see in our lives.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, well,
For sure.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, sincerely, it is wild. And again, it's another one of those things. Follow the dollars and see, how this plays out. But a lot of people, I think, are just waiting on the sidelines. I think this is as challenging a market as we've seen in probably 15 years since the Great Recession, because people are just sort of waiting this out. A lot of political uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty in the markets, high interest rates, cost of capital has gone up. So a lot of people just waiting to see what takes place, and then you'll see the floodgates open, and that's happened throughout history. But we see that especially in consumer because we're susceptible to people's buying habits and so forth. But yeah, we're really seeing that. But so we're really proud of the work that's taking place in our tech-enabled consumer businesses.
Something you're really passionate about is mental health, and you're helping the Huntsmans out in there.
You and I share that, absolutely.
Which is incredible. Tell us what you're working on with the Huntsmans, and give us a sense for like someone who's a CEO who's dealing with employees. Like, what's the state of mental health in this community?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I know you're passionate about this as well, Clint. We've talked about it. It's such a great gift. Again, the Huntsmans step up the way that they have, as they aim to and continue to conquer cancer and cancer research, and to see them move towards, from the University of Utah, where they've been perfectly happy and have a wonderful home there that continues to grow, for them to step up and look beyond and move now their cancer research in a hospital to Utah County, right there next to the campus at Utah Valley University. Remarkable.
Yeah.
This family is astonishing in their efforts to simply do good, and we're so grateful to have partnered with them now on mental health. As John Huntsman was aging, he said to his children, find the cancer of your generation and go big. And they are, and they've already allocated and committed at least $150 million towards this. The research that is being done, the team that they are assembling is world-class in every way. And so we're just honored to be a part of it. I've joined another board called Choose Mental Health. Again, some of these themes that we're seeing come out of COVID. And I work on the BYU campus in an ecclesiastical role, and I see these students come that have spent sort of 2 years in their basements on a laptop, and they don't know why they feel the way that they feel or why their mental health is in such a state. And we've got to be able to help individuals that way. I don't know that we have the answer, but certainly removing the stigma of mental health challenges is forefront in my mind and in the minds of the Huntsmans and many others, yourself, that are really leaning in to this. But I think it's holistically, we're just seeing it as a country, as a a global society, and global citizens. It's wild.
Oh, for sure.
You've got a strong affiliation with the United Kingdom. And correct me if I'm wrong or right on the title. Honorary consulate to the United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. There's the honorary consul. I work with the consul general based out of Los Angeles, Emily Cloak. She's wonderful, and her team. And that was just sort of an attempt to give back. A friend of mine, Jonathan Friedman, who now runs World Trade Center Utah, probably 20 years ago was installed as the honorary consul to Ukraine. And I was there, and I watched this take place, and I thought that would be a great way to give back to a country that's meaningful to a person. And to me, of course, I was educated in the UK. My business partner is from the UK. Our chairman emeritus, who just passed away late last year, was the Lord in the House of Lords. This is our opportunity to sort of give back to that mother country, if you will, where my ancestors came, sort of to America and then to Utah from. And it's been a real blessing to us to be able to sort of give back in that way. But I'm really new. I've only been doing it about a year, but needed to do something, excuse me, as I stepped away and as I concluded sort of my term at UVU and serving as a trustee there. So hopefully we're able to give back there, but it's a really great honor and a fun thing to do.
It's a great group, and I'm going to endanger myself to some cancellation here. We were in a meeting last year. It was at Album's HQ. And Emily and their team. I love listening to them speak simply because of the accent and the way they formulate their sentences.
IQ goes up, doesn't it?
And but then when the Americans start speaking, I zone out quite hard. And then the British start speaking, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that great?
So I know half of the meeting that took place. The other half, I was thinking about the weather.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be a part of that. And frankly, between Utah and the UK, they're our largest sort of trade partner that we have as a country. So it's a meaningful, partnership for us and something that we take very, very seriously. We talk about diversity in the state of Utah as one of the most diverse because everybody came from a different country one way or another. But this was sort of the primary, sort of mass exodus from the UK to the state of Utah. So there are deep ties. And I'm one of many of those Anglophiles that love this great country and part of the world, and so it's been fun to participate with them and rejoining this partnership.
Yeah, I don't know that a lot of people know you're an Oxford educated man.
I'm just a
That's
Southeast
incredible.
Idaho farm kid, right? So I
my
clearly
word.
needed more education. So it was
That's
a
incredible.
lot of fun. It was a great opportunity to be there and really learn from the best. I really thought that I'd seen I'd been to other universities that were healthy and great, but Oxford is second to none in a lot of ways, and it was a really sort of pinch you moment being there. The funny thing that they do at Oxford, by the way, is you dress up in your cap and gown to enroll. They speak to you in Latin, and so from day one you're wearing your cap and gown. It's like, wow, this is such a cheat on life. I'm already wearing my cap and gown on day one, that sub-fusk that they have you wear, but it was a beautiful experience and learned a lot.
Yeah.
Something sticks out. I actually think about this maybe once a month. I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were doing a lecture series at UVU. It was the Silicon Slopes lecture series, and you came. And I think Sconard was there as well. I
Yeah.
think it was you and Sconard.
I remember that.
And you
He
said
was phenomenal.
Yeah, you said